And I've got a question from Prosperity Rikito. Okay. And she asked me regarding settlement. Now, if you quickly have a look at the question, thank you so much for the question. And the question is regarding the rural-urban fringe. Okay. Now, the rural-urban fringe has been marked on this diagram if you look at it over here. So they've given us a diagram, if I can just quickly break this down, of there's the CBD. Very interesting. It seems to me we have a coastline. Okay. I just want to use a blue pen. We've got ourselves a coastline over here with a CBD, the Central Business District. We got a high-tech industrial park at A. We got gated communities mentioned over here. We got a landing strip. We've got a very large shopping center. We got farmsteads. We got industrial zones. We've got an industrial park, and we've got an out-of-town theme park. And as you can see, right in between A and the CBD, we have suburban communities. So when we talk about suburban communities, we think of low-income, middle-income, high-income residential areas, communities. Okay, going back to our image has been given to us. Pay attention, even though it might not be one of the questions, the CBD. If you look at characteristics of the CBD, you can see it's the most accessible place of an urban area. Look at all the roads leading to the CBD. It's got the tallest buildings than the surrounding and biggest areas. Now, something interesting, I just want to mention it to you. As you can see, this CBD is situated next to the coast. So immediately I can refer to this as a break of bulk point. What's a break of bulk point? Usually when goods comes in one form of transport and leaves in another, for instance Durban, for instance Cape Town, because Port Elizabeth. Okay, we import, we export, especially when we import. Goods comes in the form of shipment. It leaves on trains or on railway or on trucks, road transport. Okay, now on the bottom they've mentioned gated communities. It's secure neighborhoods, security guards and controlled access. We do have a few in Joburg. If I can give you a simple example, there's lots of them in Pretoria, but Johannesburg, we got Eagle Canyon, we got Steyn City, for example. It's gated communities. Dainfern, another example. Pretoria's got quite a few, Sundowners, Woodhill Golf Estates and all of that. Now, these gated communities are high-income residential areas, right? You pay a premium price, obviously for security, but definitely for the stands as well. Okay, so you got much bigger property space, okay, usually on the outskirts, close to transport networks, in case we're traveling to the CBD. Now, I want to focus on the landing strip over there. Now, landing strip, immediately you need to think aviation. Okay, think of Oliver Tambo Airport. Think of Lanseria Airport. Where do we usually find them? On the rural-urban fringe. Okay, before I want to continue, the question is regarding rural-urban fringe. Okay, let me just define the rural-urban fringe. It's the transition zone from the urban area to the rural area. Okay, it's when we move away from the urban area into the rural areas, surrounding rural areas. Now, going back to our diagram, the landing strip. Now, first of all, the characteristics of it. The reason why the landing strip is on the outside of the urban area, think of it. Noise pollution, okay? Noise pollution, definitely, right? First of all, for airplanes to land, you need massive piece of land available, okay? This landing strip is definitely not only a couple of 100 meters in length. No, we're talking almost in kilometers in length. So they need a big space for this aircraft to be able to arrive and departure. Okay, very importantly over here, you need massive space, office space, as I can say that, for this operation to work successfully. Now, landing strips on the outside. If you look at large shopping centers, once again, people tend to move commercial property away from the CBD. Why do you think it happens? CBD, very expensive. Highest land value. Okay, that's the reason why the buildings go up rather than expanding. But unfortunately, if you look at many examples in South Africa, like for instance, Joburg CBD, a lot of people tend to move away from the Joburg CBD. They're decentralizing themselves from the CBD. What's the reason for it? Crime, congestion, lack of service delivery. Okay, it's not the safest place anymore. Okay, it's not the cleanest place anymore. Right? A lot of businesses moved away. Okay. And that's the reason we have these large shopping center communities, commercial properties, moving away from the CBD, closer to residential areas. Okay. As you can see, we got farmsteads over here. If we think of farmsteads, think of intensive farming. Okay. It usually doesn't require a lot of mechanization, right? Close, for instance, think of tomatoes, think of milk, dairy farming. Needs to be close to the customer, right? Low order goods, for example, very close to the CBD to be able, it might be perishable goods. Okay, next to it, we got the industrial zone. That's quite interesting. Now, when we think industrial grade 12s, what do we think? Heavy industrial areas, light industries. We find our light industries closest to the CBD. Okay. Why? It might be perishable goods. It might be textile. It might be clothing factories. Heavy industries on the outside. Why? The property is cheaper. Okay. It allows you to expand much easier. Okay. And obviously, because of noise pollution. Okay. Apologies. Air pollution that these industries might cause. And then, as you can see, we have industrial parks, very close to the industrial zone. Now, what happens in industrial parks? Think of it, usually secondary activities. It's processing taking place. Maybe because it's very close to the harbor to be able to ship their final product to other countries to promote exportation. Okay. And then we had out of town theme parks. Once again, massive area needed for maximum absorption of the surrounding area. Now, let's just quickly have a look at the questions that's being asked. Now, prosperity, I hope you've paid attention. This is what I've picked up. Without answering one of the questions, this is what I've picked up. This is what has been given to us to answer this question. There's so much information in front of us. Okay, but let's look at the questions that's being asked. Now, what is the rural-urban fringe? I've mentioned that a little bit earlier. It's the transition zone from the urban area to the rural area. I'll write it down, just in case if you want to make notes. I'll write it down at the bottom of the page. Transition from the urban area to the rural area. Okay, fantastic. Now, if we quickly have a look at question 3.4.2, state 2 urban land uses that are evident in the rural-urban fringe. Okay, there's quite a few of them. Urban land uses. Now, what is urban land uses? First of all, urban, we focus on secondary, tertiary, and quaternary activities. Very important. So, if we look at urban land uses, we got high-tech industrial, high-tech industrial area, because that is definitely secondary activities. We have an out-of-town theme park. That's a tertiary activity. What else can I see over here? I have a landing strip. Also a tertiary activity. We have large shopping centers. And just the last one I'm going to mention, the industrial zone and park. Okay, so there's quite a few of them. Now, if you look at our next question, give 2 reasons why the rural-urban fringe is becoming more urban in nature. Okay, 2 reasons for this to happen. Why has the rural-urban fringe become more urban? Usually the activities that's taking place, like the high-tech industrial zone, used to be inside the urban area, except for the landing strip, the large shopping centers. Okay, we can also mention the theme parks. Okay, we can mention that as well. So if we look at that, what is the reason for this rural areas to become bigger and bigger is because urban sprawl, and urban expansion. Or we can mention urbanization. Okay. Now, urbanization is the percentage of the total population inside the urban area becoming bigger. Okay. Urban sprawl is the uncontrollable urban expansion taking place because of people tending to move to urban areas. Okay. Now, if you look at our next question, why is the rural-urban fringe an attractive location for the gated community? Secure neighborhood, like they've mentioned, these gated communities. Why is it so attractive? First of all, it's scenic, meaning it's beautiful because it's in rural areas. They're close to nature, so we can mention that. Security-wise, it's safer than in urban areas. And probably the most important reason is the living space increases. Now, it means you will be able to afford a much bigger property or stand in these gated communities than, for instance, a house in Santon or Rosebank or wherever close to the CBD. Okay, so it's kind of peace of mind. You've got security on your side. You've got a more scenic experience living close to the rural areas, and because of the property sizes, plays a vital role. Okay. Our next question, and the last question, the demand for housing is growing rapidly, and developers are looking for space at the rural-urban fringe. As a solution for the shortage of building space, suggests 2 possible objections to planned housing developments in the rural-urban fringe. Okay, suggest 2 possible objections. Why should we try and object it? Now, first of all, it's going to lead to urban sprawl. I've mentioned it to you. Okay. Now, I'm going to write it down there. I'm going to write there urban sprawl and pollution. Now, unfortunately, when urban sprawl takes place, it means it's continuous increase of the urban area, unplanned. Okay. We need to plan these things in advance, great souls. Okay. You need to keep in mind, if there's going to be influx of more people moving to urban area, we need more electricity. We need more clean drinking water. Okay. The demand for services is going to increase. Okay. And if we can't meet that expectations, it's going to put pressure on the infrastructure and it will lead to a disaster. Okay. It will lead to more informal settlements, for example. Now, these building developments needs to be carefully planned. Okay, we still need to create our green belt areas, okay, to minimize pollution, for example. We need to minimize these housing projects to minimize traffic congestion, okay. So what we need to do, we need to object it because it can put so much pressure on our infrastructure and eventually will lead to failure from the municipality side.